I'm going to be giving you guys some tricks for every gun in Blox Fruits, and I'm also going to be telling you about some secret guns that you might have not known existed. So first up, we got the Slingshot, the first gun that everybody buys in Blox Fruits. This gun costs a cheap amount of 5,000 belly, and the place you get it is in Middletown by talking to the weapons dealer. The C ability for this gun is called Sticky Pellet, and it fires a pellet that forms a trap once it hits any surface, dealing a decent amount of damage and making them unable to leave the circle. But keep in mind that this move does not summon the trap if it directly hits the enemy. The X ability is called Explosive Pellet, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You fire a red pellet, and once it hits somebody, it explodes. And overall, this is really decent because it only has a 40 mastery requirement, but you're probably going to be switching to something better once you have the money for it. Okay, so now we have the Flintlock, and it can also be bought from the weapons dealer in Middletown, and this one costs 10,500 belly. The Z ability for this gun is called Disabling Shot, and it shoots a purple bullet. If anybody gets hit by this bullet, they'll be stunned for a very short amount of time, around 2 seconds. And this only has a 15 mastery requirement. The X ability is called Rapid Gun, and this one shoots 3 bullets that all explode upon contact. This one has an 80 mastery requirement, so you're probably going to switch to a different gun if you're a beginner. This gun is really good for gathering and grinding NPCs. And overall, there's not much else to be said about that gun. I mean, it's pretty decent, but it's not the best in the game. So the third gun on this list is called the Musket, and this is a gun that can also be bought in the first sea, and the place you get it is in Middletown from the weapons dealer, and it costs a total of only 8,000 belly. The first ability is called Dragon's Bullet. It fires a small explosive to where your cursor is pointing, and this is kind of similar to its M1 ability, but it's a way bigger version of it, making it a lot cooler. And this only requires a 20 mastery because it's more of a starter gun than anything else. The X ability is called Bold Pistero. You basically shoot a bullet and it summons a tornado, and it drags anybody nearby into it. And the closer they are to the tornado, the higher up they're thrown. And this ability has a total of a 50 mastery requirement. This gun has a more damage per shot than the Flintlock and the Slingshot, but it does have a higher reload time, making it pretty bad. It still has pretty decent combo potential for a beginner gun. Next up is the Refined Slingshot, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a slingshot. It even looks similar. It's just a refined version of it. And this is a gun that can be bought at Marine Fortress from the advanced weapon dealer for 30,000 belly. And the moves of it are kind of similar, and it just deals way more damage. First up, Sticky Pellet. It's exactly the same thing. It forms a circle when it hits a surface and deals a bunch of damage if it hits the enemy. And the X move is Explosive Pellet. It fires an explosive pellet that deals a huge amount of damage, knocking enemies away. Like I said before, they're the exact same moves, but keep in mind that they're way better and deal way more damage. So next up is the Refined Flintlock, and it's obviously the upgraded version of the Flintlock, and it also looks a lot better in my opinion. As far as abilities go, it's basically the exact same as the normal Flintlock, but they deal way more damage. And the way you get this gun is from the advanced weapons dealer, who's located at Marine Fortress for 65,000 belly. Decent thing about this gun is that it's really cheap, but obviously since it's cheap, it does pretty low damage, so you're gonna think carefully whether to buy it or not. Next up, we have a rare gun, and this one's called the Cannon. And the place you can buy this is also from the advanced weapon dealer, who's also located in Marine Fortress. And this gun costs a total of 100,000 belly, making it one of the most expensive guns so far. The X ability for this gun has a 40 mastery requirement, and it's called Alpha Wave. It fires a large orange beam that will stun and drag any player when hit. The X ability shoots 3 small orange pellets that will burst into flames when it touches the ground, leaving behind a fire trail that will deal extra damage whenever an enemy is harmed. And this ability has a 100 mastery requirement, making it pretty easy to master. Okay, so next up we have the Refined Flintlock, and this gun is really similar to the Flintlock, but the only difference is that it does way more damage, and the moves look a little bit different. And the way you get them is by talking to the advanced weapon dealer who's located in Marine Fortress. And the amount of money it costs to buy the gun is 65,000 belly, so it's still pretty cheap, but maybe not for first sea players. Good things about this gun is really cheap. Even though it's a pretty bad gun for this list, it's still one of the best guns for the first sea. Bad thing about this gun is that its focus is more on stunning, which means its damage isn't as high as it should be. And it becomes less useful once you enter the second sea because there's way more options to choose from. The Bazooka is a legendary gun and can be dropped by the level 500 boss in Upper Skylands. The boss's name is Whisper, and you can get it with a 5 to 10% chance. The Z ability is called Alpha Wave, and the user fires a large orange beam similar to the Flame Fruit's X ability, and the skill requires 100 mastery. The X ability for this gun is where the user launches 4 small bullets, and on impact they cause burn damage. really good thing about this gun is that it deals one of the highest amounts of damage in the game for click attacks. But pretty bad thing about it is that it obviously has a really long reload time. And it's kind of hard to combo with because of its slow attacks. And lastly, the special attacks literally deal less damage than the click attack, making it a pretty bad gun to use. Now we have the Acidum rifle, and this is a rare gun. And the really cool thing about this gun is that it deals poison damage over time and has the highest clicking damage out of every gun in the game. And it's used a lot in PvP because both its abilities have the power to break observation, making it really good for combos. The way you get this rifle is dropped from the factory raid in the second sea, and it only has a 20% chance of dropping. That's literally a 1 in 5 chance, unless of course you have double drops. And while doing the factory raid, you don't have to carry the raid almost, you just have to do a decent amount of damage to be able to get this gun. So the first ability for this gun is called Spiky Bomb, and this shoots an explosive green ball that inflicts explosive damage upon contact and also inflicts stun for a short period of time. The second ability is called Acidic Smoke, and this shoots balls of gas which deal decent amount of damage, inflicting poison that does tick damage over time, and this also disables enemies' observation, making it decent for PvP. And most people in the game that are not gun mains also use this gun because all its abilities have the potential to break instinct, making it really good for bounty hunting and other things like that. Next up is the Kabuchan, and the way you get this gun is by going to Usopp's island, which is located in a really stray place in the second sea. Once you go there, you can talk to the strongest god NPC and he'll let you buy it for 1,500 fragments. Most people that use this gun usually pair with Dark Awakening, Ice, Shisui, Kavendar, and Spiky Trident because this gun really complements those abilities. The Z ability for this gun is called Flying Firebird. It's where the user shoots a flying bird that explodes and leaves a flame trail and does a bunch of damage, and it also breaks observation, making it really good for PvP. Second ability is called Intense Wind, and this is where the user fires a blast of wind that knocks enemies back and stuns them. And a good thing about this attack is that it can hit multiple targets, making it decent for PvP and for grinding. Overall, this gun is pretty decent, and if you want to use the full potential of it, you need to get to a mastery of 250. So you better get grinding. Next up is the Bizarre Rifle, and this gun is often underlooked. It's a gun with really good combo potential, and the place you get it is in the second sea at the Cursed Ship by talking to this NPC. And the requirements for this are 25 ectoplasm, but keep in mind you have to be at least level 1000 to be able to do this. The Z ability for this gun is called Heat Seeking Shot, and it's where you shoot at a blue ball that does a good amount of damage. Cool thing about this ability is that even if you miss this shot, you kind of have auto aim, so basically just tracks the user, making it kind of overpowered. The X ability is called Hellfire Shower. It's where you shoot a burst of 4 shots, kind of like the Awakened Flames burning effect, but these are much stronger and dark blue. This ability does break observation, making it pretty good for PvP. Overall, this gun is pretty decent for farming because of the high damage and the flames that deal even more, and it's also decent for PvP. And keep in mind that it's extremely cheap and definitely worth buying if you're a second C player. Next up is the Serpent's Bow, and the way you obtain this gun is by defeating the level 1675 boss, the Island Empress. The Island Empress is located on Hydra Island in the third sea, and the drop rate for this gun is completely unknown, but people estimate it to be around 2 to 5%, making it really difficult to get, even with double drops enabled. The Z ability for this gun is called Poisonous Blast, and this is where the user fires a fast purple projectile from their bow. It explodes in a purple blast upon contact with the enemy or the surface, and it deals instantaneous damage as well as poison damage. The X ability is called Snakebind, and this is where the user fires a medium speed purple projectile, and this projectile will chase the enemy for the bit, but it is possible to outrun it if you're really fast. When they hit an enemy, it deals a decent amount of damage and stuns them for a short time. Good thing about this gun is that both moves break observation, making it really good for PvP. And the gun overall has really good damage for its M1 abilities and its overall skills. And it has really good range, making it hard for people to run away from a fight. And it has a low mastery considering how good the gun is. Next up is the first mythical gun and the only mythical gun in the whole game. I'm obviously talking about the Soul Guitar. To get the Soul Guitar, you must be at least level 2300. And then you can do the Soul Guitar puzzle quest, which involves the full moon and a bunch of materials that are 500 bones, 250 ectoplasm, 1 dark fragment, and then all you have to do is simply finish the quest. This guitar is really good for raids because it has a life regeneration ability, allowing you to heal back your lost health. The first ability for this gun is called Soul Shaker, and this is where the user summons a skull with the power of the undead, which opens its mouth and starts shooting a bunch of soul beam at players nearby. And it also deals high damage, knocking them away, similar to the Kabuchan's X move. The X ability is called El Diablo, and this ability is similar to the previous ability, making it really hard to dodge. And another really good thing about it is that the M1 ability, the Z ability, and the X ability all break instinct, making it even more overpowered for PvP. But even though the Z ability does really good damage, it's kinda hard to use and hard to hit players with. And some people think that this gun can actually damage rubber users, but that's kind of false. I mean, it's a gun. No gun can do damage to rubber users. Next up is the shotgun, and many of you probably have not heard of this gun. The only people that can use it are admin and mods. It's been used before by one of the owners of the game, Rip Indra. And the first place people saw this gun being used is a video uploaded by a YouTuber named Mr. Blox. This is where he fought Rip Indra, and you can see him using the gun during their fight. And that's pretty much all that's known about the gun. I mean, it's kind of hard to know things about the gun when people can't even use it.